And welcome, everybody. This is Pastor Sherman Ray, and this is Christ and Culture. I want to welcome you all to the broadcast today. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day, great start to your week, and hopefully you had a great weekend, too. But that's probably the most important thing. It's Super Bowl weekend. We had the Super Bowl of Super Bowls this weekend, and or maybe we should just call it the biggest drubbing that we've ever seen. How many of you watched the game? Some of you probably watched the game. It was probably one of the worst games you could ever watch. And we had some friends over at the house. Excuse me. And I'll tell you, I don't know I don't know whether it was the game was bad, the halftime was bad, whatever it was. It turned into something that that nobody really liked. But it is what it is. It's over now. We can't do anything about it. Anyways, this is Pastor Sherman Ray, and this is Christ and Culture. I want to thank you all for being a part of the broadcast today, and I hope hope you had a great weekend. And even if my team didn't win, hopefully your team won. I'll just put it that way. Hopefully your team won the game, even if my team didn't win. And before we get going, let's bring Pastor Tommy on, because you know what, Pastor Tommy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Pastor Sherman. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was just going to get into just bemoaning the fact that the game was so terrible, and so, but you were over at the house. Let me ask you a question. How did you like the game?
It was different for me because that was the first football game that I sat down and watched, and my best estimate is 17 years.
Really?
Yes, it's been that long. And so, I've caught bits and pieces here and there of games, but to sit down and actually watch a football game and watch TV,
mm-hmm.
I haven't done that in at least 17 years. So,
oh my goodness.
It was a new challenge for me. But the fellowship was awesome and great.
Fellowship was good. That's always important, that the fellowship was good. We had a good time. We had a few people over at the house, which is great. Your lovely daughter, your lovely wife, Mila, was there, and so I'm just so glad. And we had some good food, good fellowship.
Yes.
But our team didn't win. So at least my team didn't win. Yeah. Did you think it was going to be that one-sided?
No, I did not. I did not think it was going to be that one-sided. But I did expect that there would be a comeback of some sort from KC.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that they would get blown up like that.
No. This was there was no coming back on this one. I think we figured it out by probably the first quarter. It was going in the wrong direction, and it just kept going and kept going and kept going. Never, the ship never righted itself, and it's unfortunate. It happens, Sometimes it happens with games like that, where you got. So Philadelphia. For those of you who didn't get to watch the game at all, the Super Bowl. It was the Philadelphia Eagles who just killed the Kansas City Chiefs. And in probably one of the most lopsided games we've seen ever in Super Bowl history. So, it is what it is. So, what are you going to do? I don't know. Wow, there's something wrong with the screen there too, Pastor Tom. I'm going to try to fix this while we'll be talking. I'll try to fix this whole thing. But so those we're going to open up our YouTube channel. So if you want to watch the game, if you want to watch the show on our YouTube channel, you can go to Godstream TV and check it out over there. We'd love to have you on there. Also, if you'd like to write to us, you can write to us at christandcultureshow@gmail.com. It's christandcultureshow@gmail.com. Get in on the conversation. Really should. You should get in on the conversation because we're going to talk about some interesting things today. First and foremost, really, let's see what happened over the weekend. Over the weekend, tons of stuff happened, and one of the biggest things probably that happened was, I don't know, was there really something that stuck out? Let's start with one of the first things we were talking about. A federal judge has blocked President Trump's order ending birthright citizenship for kids who came to America illegally, or were born in America illegally. And the question remains, should there even be such a thing as birthright citizenship? Now, this is probably the biggest question, and many of you know what happens. You have people who come here illegally, and they don't have to necessarily be Latin Americans. The Chinese in California, I don't know if you heard about this, Pastor Tommy, but in California, they actually have an entire hotel. And the Chinese have a hotel, and they bring these moms in here that are 6 months pregnant or whatever it is, really close, and they will have the child here in America, then they'll go back to China. But those kids are now U.S. citizens because they were born here in America. President Trump saw that, and he probably wasn't even talking about this Chinese thing, but we have a lot of illegal aliens that come here to America, have kids, and he says we're done with that. That birthright citizenship, it's not in the Constitution, as far as we know. But so I guess the question here is, because now we have federal judges that are going, hey, we want to put a pause on this until the big guys talk about it. Should there be such a thing as birthright citizenship? I mean, should you be able to come here from any country you want, as an illegal, have your kid here, or your child here, I should say, have your child here, and then as a result of that child become an American citizen?
I personally don't think so. I know a lot of people would disagree with that, but I think we should take our cues from ancient Israel. You couldn't just go to Israel and just say, hey, I'm going to have a baby here and my baby's going to be born an Israelite. It didn't work that way. Obviously in the time that we're living in, that could be very dangerous. Because all, a terrorist family would have to do is just come here, have a baby, indoctrinate the baby, and say, okay, when you're 18, you're going to do this and do that. Or when they're 14 or 15. I don't agree with that. I think that is something that needs to be fixed. That may have worked, 60, 70 years ago when we didn't have terrorist activity, but things have changed now. It's not the same.
Well, it's kind of like, it's funny. It seems like people are gaming the system, I mean, they're gaming. Yes. And then we have what they call chain migration, okay? In addition to that child being, because you can't just have a child born here and then say, okay, little Sebastian, whatever your name is, you can be here, but your parents can't be. No, they don't do that way. They say, okay, now that the child is an American citizen, you've got to have somebody watch over him. So guess who now gets to come to America? Mom and dad. Well, you can't just have mom and dad and the kid. Now let's bring over brothers and sisters, because you might have brothers and sisters, right? Now you got to bring over the brothers and sisters. And the brothers and sisters, because you don't want to break up this entire family thing, grandma, grandpa, uncles, aunts. So from that one kid comes about 17 people as a result of this one thing that we're allowing to have here in America. And before you know it, it's just gotten out of hand. And unfortunately, what has happened over the last number of years is that's been the norm rather than the rare occasion that you've got one kid and he comes over here, literally mom, dad, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, grandma, grandpa, and it's called chain migration. So this can have far-reaching effects, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And think about the taxpayer dollars that goes to that. We're funding families that aren't from here. They're coming here. Somebody's got to take care of them. And we can't even take care of our own people. We got homelessness that's off the charts right now. I'm glad to see that he is making some changes so that all that money that's being freed up, maybe we can take care of our own.
Yeah. Well, that would be it's funny. We were just talking about this today, all this money being freed up. And I think you're alluding to the Doge thing that we're talking about. Let's just talk about Doge, shall we? So Doge has been doing, so many of you know Doge is, it's basically Elon Musk was tasked with finding government waste. And over the weekend, he has just been saying here and there and here and there. So this is an AP story. And I was looking at it, I'm going, you got to be kidding me that he found that much fraud and abuse in America. And so let me pull $900 million cut out of the Department of Education budget. 90 contracts. So I'm going to try to get back to this story because I was just looking at it, okay? $900 million, there it goes. So Doge has just cut, I'm going to read this to you, okay, because this is very interesting. Elon Musk's Department of Government and Efficiency has cut about $900 million in the Education Department contracts after concluding that they were a waste of taxpayer money, because that's what he's looking for, wasted tax money. The Education Department said Doge's cuts spanned 90 contracts at the Institute of Education Sciences, a research branch of the federal agency. It included, get this, $1.5 million that went to a contractor. So what do you think this contractor did? I'll give you a guess. Okay.
Oh, 1.5 million? That sounds like transgender culture or something.
Oh, no.
No.
That would be my first guess, right? Be my first guess? No. Oh, no. $1.5 million that went to a contractor to observe mailing and clerical operations.
Oh yeah, that's very important. We need to. He needs to spend too. That's crazy.
This isn't nationwide. This is in one place. This is just in Indiana, at the U.S. Census facility in Indiana.
Wow.
One contract, $1.5 million to observe their mailing and clerical operations.
Wow.
There's a list of some of the things that Doge has been looking at, the Government Efficiency Office. And here's the problem with this whole thing is that you've got Democrats and I should say Democrat officials and just rank and file Democrats upset that they're finding all of these wasteful spending. And I ask you, Pastor Tommy, does it make sense for us to spend money in places like, I don't know, far-flung places like Afghanistan or Vietnam for anything other than things that would advance Americanism, federalism, the American way, not put up, I think in Ireland they spend like $90,000, whatever it was, $70,000 for a play.
Yeah, it's useless waste of money.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we need to get rid of all the frivolous spending and get some right about this wrong that we have allowed to happen for so long. A lot of people are upset at Musk, and like you just pointed out, some of the Democratic Party is upset, but we've got our hand in their pocket now, and they don't like it. But they've had their hand in our pocket for years, and we've been protesting, and now we're finally able to do something about it, and now they get upset about it. But like they say, what goes around comes around. But it's good to see that we're getting back on the right track.
I know. So they had a story on yesterday, where they had the guy from Fox News. I forgot this guy's name now, and I watch him all the time. He's got a guy who does a man on the street thing, and what he did is he had his man on the street. He went into a village in New York, and he went.
Is that Lawrence?
No. What is this guy's name? For some reason, I get Jesse Waters. So Jesse Waters had one of his guys. His guy's name is Johnny, and he had Johnny go through and talk to the people in like Brooklyn or someplace like that, and they were all black folks. So it was an inner city group of folks, and he says, "Hey, do you think that the government should be spending money on this, that, or the other thing?" And so you can really get a great read on the country if you ask inner city black folks if the government should be spending your money on this, that, or the other thing. And to a man, not every once in a while, to a man, every one of them said, "What? We're spending money on what? Are you out of your mind?" That lady goes, one lady says, she goes, "We spend all that money." She goes, "I need to get my hair done." I can't even afford to get my hair done, and we're spending all the... It's just incredible. But here's the thing about it. You've got these other people that are on the front lines, though, the vocal ones that are upset. Maxine Waters, she's upset. Chuck Schumer is upset. And they're all upset at Elon Musk because he is showing where the fraud and the abuse are. Now, somebody said that it's almost like you caught your boyfriend's, you got his phone. Okay, well, I think we all saw this. You got your boyfriend's phone and you started thumbing through it, and you saw that he had a girlfriend, and they were talking about all this other stuff, and then he got mad at you because you violated his privacy by looking into his phone. Going, so you're an adulterer, and you're mad at me because I found out about it.
Yeah.
The federal government has been doing all kinds of crazy things behind the back of the American people, and now they're upset at the guy who's telling them that this is occurring. So, Pastor Sherman, you've got to tell me in what planet this makes sense.
There's actually a scripture that goes to this. It's in Proverbs. It says, "Evil men do not understand judgment." Right? And so when you're evil, you're just caught up in this whirlwind of darkness. And so when someone exposes you and pronounces judgment and points it out, they don't understand that. They're like, "Why are you doing this to me?" Like they're the victim. And so that's actually what's happening here, is that evil men are not understanding judgment. And I think a lot of these people are worried about being exposed themselves. Once they start trailing where the money actually went, and to whose bank account and whose pocket, whose offshore account, and whose nonprofit it went to, it's all going to come out.
It is. And I really do. And I think we're just touching the tip of the iceberg. I really do. I think once they start getting into this, because they're going to find out, because right now what they're estimating is that 10% of the monies that were earmarked coming out of these agencies, USAID, more basically, Doge has been looking into USAID the most right now. They're going into the education department. They'll go into the military pretty soon. But early on, it's been USAID. They found out that only 10% of the monies that were earmarked to go to this organization or that organization, only 10% of that was actually going to that institution. Okay? Whether that be for vaccines, whether that be for kids, or whatever, only about 10% of it. 90% of that stuff has been going for administrative fees. They call it administrative fees. That's a great way of putting administrative being. We used to call it skimming, but now they call it administrative fees. So I think we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg. Can you imagine what it's going to be like in a year from now when Pam Bondi? Oh, and congratulations, Pam Bondi, because she actually made it as our new Attorney General. Can you imagine what's going to happen in a year from now when Pam Bondi starts looking into all of this backroom dealing? Can you imagine what that's going to be like?
Yeah, it's going to be bizarre. And this is why we have to pray for their safety. Because, you back a cat up against the wall for so long. It's only so much they're going to be able to take before they really start lashing out. Right now, they're just vocal, but we don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. But yeah, this is it. They've only had 2 weeks, and the amount of evidence that they found in 2 weeks, just like you said, by the end of this year or later on this summer, imagine what they're going to find. Amazing. And who's going to be uncovered and standing in the light, with their clothes off. It's going to be a lot of people, and it's going to be very interesting. Yeah,
I would hate to be, and that's why they're fighting so much, right? They're fighting so hard right now, right? They're fighting. Don't let them do it, and they want to get rid of Elon Musk and everything else. Well, anyways, so there was a story here, the BBC, and we're talking about some of the things that have happened over the last 4 years, and one of the one of the big things was the whole woke movement, the diversity, inclusion, equity, and inclusion wing of the Democrat Party really took a hold of the country. Well, company after company, especially large companies, the first thing you would see is they would say, "This is our DEI, program that we've got," meaning they're going to basically hire people not based upon what they can do, but basically just because of who they are. Well, and if you didn't do that, you were probably, you were blacklisted, and people thought about it. Well, since the Trump administration came into office, one of the things they did is they basically been doing away with that. I mean, they've been saying, look, if you're qualified, we will hire you. If you're not qualified, we're not going to hire you. And people are going, oh my gosh, who else is going to actually, follow along with this? Well, Google, one of the, if not, it's probably the largest repository of information on the planet. Google has become the latest big U.S. firm to scrap its recruit more workers from underrepresented groups, BBC News understands. The decision to abandon the diversity, equity, and inclusion requirement or recruitment targets comes after the company carried out an annual review of its corporate policies. The technology giant is also reviewing some of its other DEI programs. U.S. President Donald Trump and his allies have regularly attacked DEI policies since his return to the White House just over 2 weeks ago, and Trump has ordered government agencies to eliminate such initiatives. So it looks like Google has basically said, we're not doing it. If you can't do the job, we're not hiring you. And so do you think this is going to become a trend, Pastor Tommy? Do you think it's going to continue to be a trend?
It's already happening. Target has also done the same thing. Mm-hmm. And that was huge because Target is where all the whole community flocked to because they were so boisterous, along with Bud Light and whoever else. But you know what I think?
Mm-hmm.
I think the Democrat Party, whoever was running that agenda, was giving them so much money. Mm-hmm. And because Trump is a business guy, he says, look, we're not going to do that. You're not going to have any government assistance if you don't get rid of this. We need to get back to normal. And he just righted it. And so, yes, I do believe we're going to see more. We have seen a few already. I think we're going to see more. It's going to be a few that's going to protest it, but, it's going to be to no avail.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's funny, the usual suspects come out now. You've got Al Sharpton, who's already come out, and he's going, look, if you're not with us, then we're going to boycott you. Come on, everybody, jump on board. And people are going, who is that guy anyways? Oh, it's that guy who I lost my job because of you. Oh, yeah, you're not losing your job, Al. I'm losing my job because I'm jumping up. I think the American people are understanding this more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Is this so? I guess the question is now: have the Democrats learned their lesson on this? Because it seems to me like the same usual suspects are going right back to the way they played this all the way, coming out and going, you know what? If we don't get our way, then we're just going to vilify. We're going to fire, brand people. We're going to do all kinds of things. Have they even learned their lesson yet?
That's a great question. I'm reading the Harbinger right now, and mm-hmm. The answer to the question actually lies in that. The alarm has gone off, and they decided to hit the snooze button. We're going to build back stronger, better, come back. We're going to resist, and that pride is a terrible thing. That gets a lot of people, and that pride is what brings down cultures, brings down mm-hmm. people, brings down nations. And I just saw a segment just a bit ago, and they were saying that same exact thing. Is the Democrats aren't they're not catching on. They're not changing their stance. Actually, they're trying to ramp it up and go in for the fight. Who is it? I don't know if it was Chuck Schumer or somebody. that were just recently saying that they're gonna dig in and basically fight everything. I'm like, so you're just gonna fight against the American people then, right?
That's it. Yeah, because in November 5th, the American people said, "We don't like what you're doing. We're going to go with the other guy," right?
Yeah.
And not just a few people said it, an overwhelming number of people said it, and they basically said, "We don't like what you're selling, Democrat Party."
Right.
And they still just haven't seen it. But the top of the ticket, and here's the interesting thing about James Carville. You might have heard of James Carville before. He's a Democrat operative and a kingmaker, older guy. He basically is telling the Democrat Party, stop the stupidity. They call it an 80-20 or a 90-10 philosophy. The Republicans are supporting the 90% popular things. Lower taxes, more lower food prices, all these great things. And the Democrats are going, you know what, that 10% that only 10% of the people like this particular little thing, we're going to fight for that, and we're going to fight against the 90% thing. And James Carville is going, you guys are stupid. This is just stupid. And this is what's going on with the leaders of the Democrat Party. They're fighting against the American people over issues they know the American people don't like. So do you think, Pastor, I mean, this is my educated guess. Democrats don't care what the American people like. They don't care what the American people want. They're going to push their agenda until enough people are goofy enough to vote them back in office, vote them back in anyways, and they don't care. They just don't care what's going to happen.
Yeah, you know, they say that they're fighting against the Republican Party. They're fighting against Trump. They're fighting against Elon Musk and that agenda. But realistically, they're fighting against the people. They really are. And hopefully people will begin to wake up and see that they're not listening. You know, you think about a relationship. What is the number one reason? I know people are going to say money, but it's not. What is the number one reason why people get divorced? Why do relationships fall apart?
Because you're not listening.
Communication.
To yeah, you're not listening.
Not listening.
Yeah, you're not listening.
You're not listening, right? And so here it is. You know, the relationship has already been broken. It's been severed, and they're still not listening.
You don't care. They just don't care.
You go.
They just don't. I know. If they really cared. Now, one of the things that has happened is that, especially with this whole thing with Doge and the amount of money the government is spending, by a wide margin, the American people are saying we don't like the direction of the country's going. We don't want to give our money away to foreign governments without getting a return on our money. We don't want to spend our money on endless wars. We don't want this, that. And the Democrats are going, well, we don't care. We don't care what you like. We're going to do what we want anyways. And forget it if you don't like it. As a matter of fact, they're pushing at this point. So this was an interesting thing. Chuck Schumer, and we haven't discussed this yet, but it was maybe you heard about this. Chuck Schumer has now opened up a snitch line. I kid you not. It's a snitch line that if you see Donald Trump doing something wrong, they want to report it because they're going to go for anything they can. Okay? Anything and everything they can. It's a snitch line, right? Now wouldn't they be better off by just coming up with policies that work well for the American people? Wouldn't they be better off by coming up with something as opposed to, let's find you guys doing something wrong? Okay? Yeah. Right? Isn't that why they lost in the first place? You know, I mean, maybe I'm just wrong on this. Right?
No, you're exactly right. It's the snitches want to fight. They want to snitch on somebody else, and they're actually the snitches. That's what's crazy about it.
I just don't. I've never. So I ran for office a few years back, 2019. And when I did, one of the things that if I had to do it over again, I probably wouldn't do it this way now. But I was bent on one guy not beating me. And so I spent all my time focusing not about talking about myself, but exposing what he did. Now, this guy I definitely did not want this guy, even if I did not want the people to vote for him. And most people did not know that there was a side of this guy that was pretty nefarious. And so I took part of the money that I should have been using to promote me to talk about this guy. And as a result of that, I don't think I would have won anyways. I think the timing was off. But in retrospect, I would have probably, if I do it again, I wouldn't spend $1 trying to expose how bad this guy is. I would just go around telling everybody how good I was.
Yeah.
Maybe the Democrats should do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why Kamala lost. All she kept doing was, with word salads, talking about, everything that Trump did.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah. There was another story. Well, before we go into that, some of you, this might be the first time you're checking out the show. I'm Pastor Sherman, this is Pastor Tommy, and this is Christ and Culture Show. And we come to you once a week to talk to you about some of the cool things that are going on in the culture. And we're online, so some of you might know that we're actually on YouTube. We're on Godstream TV, and so you can go and check that out. Or if you don't want to go and get in on the chat that's going on right now, you can always go to our Godstream TV channel. You can actually just write in christandcultureshow.com, christandcultureshow.com, and you can go right to our page. Or you can just write to us at christandcultureshow@gmail.com. Ask us any question that you would like. We'd love to hear from you. There was something that happened this weekend also, and I know I'm just going all off the past time. Going, I thought we were going to talk about this or that. No. So what happened this weekend is also, and it's very interesting that the Trump administration has been unleashing Border Patrol, ICE, and Tom Homan, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, and they've been going after these criminal illegal aliens who've basically found a way to get into our society, and so mass arrests, putting them on planes, sending them back to where they're supposed to go, that kind of thing. The ones that they have not been able to send back yet, they're holding them up in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, which has been great. But here's the thing about it, is that in Colorado and other places, some of these actions by ICE have been thwarted because you've got people who are going around telling and alerting these sometimes murderers that ICE is coming. And here's the thing about it, is that they're endangering their hamlet, their little area, by... So I saw one last week. A guy had a bullhorn, don't get, and telling the people who are in the house, don't open your door, ICE is here. Well, Pam Bondi said this. She says, for you folks that are doing this, you are endangering our ICE agents who are going out doing their job, that they're just doing their job. And we will find you folks, that they are going to start prosecuting these people. And we actually have whole sanctuary cities that are basically doing this also too. What are your thoughts on these people who are purposefully alerting these criminal aliens, some of them gang members? So what do you think about these people, one? And number two, what do you think about Pam Bondi and Tom Holman saying, hey, we're going to come after you guys now?
Yeah, the second answer first. Yeah, they need to say something. That's good that they're taking a stance like that, because it's illegal for anyone to get involved with any kind of police activity. I know in there were certain neighborhoods that were near me when I was growing up, that were near me, right? That if there was a raid suspected about to take place, people would whistle, or there would be some kind of sign in the air, and then they would immediately leave the area. They wouldn't stay around. Why? Because if they got caught alerting, they would be taken in also. So I know it's illegal for them to do that. So they need to do that. And it's not just the people who are there the in the community where they're at warning. It's literally the media. I actually saw a news article this morning, I think, that they were saying that they were expecting ICE raids in the Los Angeles area. Come on now. This was 2 days ago. I saw, that people were leaking out the information, and still the media is still doing it. So the media also needs to be accountable for that also.
Yeah, this is not good, and I cannot wait till, I think the mayor of Denver, or is it Aurora, one of the two, has said that we're going to do everything we can. We're not going to help you, but I cannot wait till they goose step out one of these mayors in chains and say, "Look, we told you this was going to happen. Come on, get them in the truck," and then just get them by the scruff of their neck and just. Right? Because you know what? They cannot allow this. They can't allow this to keep going. I mean, they just can't allow this to keep going. So I'm looking really, really forward to this actually happening. So we'll see what happens. There was also along those same lines. There are actually Christian organizations. There was a story. It's an SRN news story. Christian relief groups are feeling the pain of President Trump's dismantling of the U.S. AID. We talked about this before. Trump administration is gutting of the USAID is directly affecting the work and ministry of many faith-based organizations, including Samaritan's Purse, World Vision, World Relief, and Catholic Relief Services. As Christianity Today reports, most of USAID's budget goes to grants for projects including local Christian health clinics and orphan care. Here's interesting. On their websites, World Relief says the federal funding cuts are putting its refugee outreach life savings projects at risk. So here's the deal. There are organizations, Christian organizations, that are saying, and I've not heard anything from Franklin Graham's group. I have heard things about Catholic Relief Services saying that by stopping any of the money coming from USAID, that they're going to stop the work of God in these areas. What do you say to some relief organization that is taking money from the government, and now because that money's being cut off, potentially, so what would you say to them?
Well, first of all, it probably is going to affect the work for their God. It's probably going to affect that. But here's my thought. I did see Samaritan's Purse on there. Mm-hmm. Two things come to mind. Typically speaking, Christian charitable organizations are 501c3. Mm-hmm. So typically they don't get money from the government. But let's just say that they got it set up that way. Mm-hmm. Just seeing the pattern of President Trump, I think that there will probably be something set up different for that specific group of businesses, mm-hmm. so that they won't be, because they're looking at the reason why they're shutting down USAID is to find out where all the money's going, mm-hmm. right? So temporarily there has to be a halt so that they can see where it's bleeding the most. So I believe that, either a different organization will be set up for them or they'll be reinstated some kind of different way. I think it's just temporary for them, but we'll see. I'm sure people give directly to them also, too. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I do, too. And, I've never seen the work of God before. What did people do before USAID came into existence? I just don't. If you've built your entire, we've never gotten any money from them, and we're doing fine. We touch people all the time.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's to me that's just fascinating that these folks that I wonder sometimes you wonder, are people just crying because you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Because USAID has done some great work. They credit them saying that 7 million babies have been saved from dying from malaria, that kind of stuff. But the vast majority of the money that goes from USAID doesn't go to that. The vast majority of it is being skimmed off, and is probably hurting more people than it is helping people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the scary. That is the scary part about it. So I think one of the things I saw was that Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, said that he was given, $200 billion by the U.S. government, but he said that only 60 of it actually made it to him. So what does that tell you? And I'm giving you some numbers. I'm just throwing some numbers out, but it was something very close to that, where it was a disproportionate amount of the money did not go to what it was supposed to go to. And what I think is going to find out, and this is what most people are saying, is that they're going to come to find out that this money is basically a big slush fund for the Democrat Party. That it started out with great intentions. Back in the 60s, they were noble, it was the love, peace, hey, hippie type thing, But over the years, it has become, as a matter of fact, George Soros and his guys, they've been funded by it. These open border guys. Yep. It has been used to topple governments. The CIA has used the money for it. There was a story here. This is very interesting. FEMA, and I probably got rid of it. No, here it is. FEMA took, is it $59 million? This is talking about misappropriation of funds. FEMA was told, and we're talking about, because it's not just limited to USAID, okay? These are government agencies across the board. They're starting to take a look at this, and it's the whole Doge mentality to take a look at what's going on. FEMA was told to halt any of its disbursement of monies, okay? Because they too were under question. Well, a couple of them, these folks that were there said, no, we're not going to stop doling out money to places. We're going to keep doing it. $59 million was sent to New York City for illegal immigrants to stay in luxury hotels. Not 59,000. $59 million was sent to New York City for these folks. And they asked some of the folks that are in North Carolina. And why do we say North Carolina? Well, they just had a hurricane go through there. And some of these folks, and this was months ago, some of these people are still out of home. Some of these folks are still going through all this stuff, other stuff. And they asked these folks, what do you think about $59 million being sent over to New York to house illegal immigrants? What would you do? Pastor Tommy, what would you do if your government did that?
Yeah, well, they did do that, and I'm irate about it. Even though I'm not a victim, that is terrible. That 59 million. Okay, let's think about this. I used to work in a hotel. 59 million. You could probably refurbish, a good portion of that hotel, depending on the size of it. If it's, if it doesn't have 3,000 rooms, you could probably refurbish the whole hotel.
Yeah.
59 million. I just don't see how that number even. Yeah, but 59 million could have housed some people who lost their homes. Could have fed them. Could have provided some temporary housing or whatever until they are able to rebuild. That's just crazy. I saw that article and I just was thinking to myself, okay, that's a lot of money to house. I can't even fathom 59 million trying to house someone in a hotel for what, the next 30 years? I don't know. No, think about it.
Yes.
Right? We pay. Let's just say we buy a $500,000 house and we get a 30-year mortgage.
Okay, there you go. All right.
That's
Sounds good.
$500,000 right there. We're talking 59.
$59 million. Yeah. $59 million. Can you imagine? How many people could that be? How many people you think that was? 1 million people?
I know, right?
We're talking about literally 20, 30. I don't know how many people went to New York. It wasn't a million people. Okay? It wasn't a million people, right? So that must be some really good room service, is what that must be.
I guess so.
Some really good room service.
They had a massage every night.
And, and you can't just give them any old food, right? You got to give them what they're used to, right? And so Perrier, and you got to give them a card. And so and that's why people are so disgusted by this. They mentioned this, once again, they mentioned this to the black folks in New York, and they said, hey, FEMA. So here's the thing. FEMA is not an aid organization that sends money to do this.
Right.
FEMA goes into areas in America that have been under natural disasters, hurricanes, all kinds, earthquakes, that kind of stuff. That's what FEMA's money is for. FEMA's money is not to be going to house illegal aliens any place. I mean, for any reason. And so those 4 guys that evidently said okay and penned on this and said that, of course they got fired. And now I would think that you'd probably have to bring these guys up on charges. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah. Find out where the money actually went. And then, because that's all kinds of embezzling and, that's a lot of money.
It makes you, I'm not upset at our government. I'm infuriated, but I'm excited because now, and I was talking to somebody about this today. I said, can you imagine if now we're not spending that money on this, and if we can just take that money back, because now I should never have to pay. I should never pay taxes ever again in life, right? Because now they're getting this money back, money that would normally be going to Vietnam. I think in Vietnam they were putting up electric charging stations for cars. Since we're not sending that money over there to them, and we're not sending money over to this organization and that, now American people should not have to pay any taxes for years, because now all that money's coming back. You could imagine that you could probably balance the budget by not paying this money out for there and money out there. There was a guy named Friedman, and great economist, and he says that the Americans, we could have a balanced budget because the government doesn't make money. The government just takes in money. If the government would just stop spending money, we would balance the budget in like a year, because all they have to do is stop spending money. That's the problem with the government right now, is they spend 10 times more than they bring in. They're like drunken sailors. They're going, oh, we got all this money, just throw it around, just give it to anybody. I'm going, well, no, you keep spending all this money that we don't have, and we could balance our budget, but they just don't do that. So
and get rid of the deficit. It's as high as it's ever been, ever.
Yeah. There was and so we're going to go into our last segment here too, man. Boy, it's just so much going on right now. Once again, folks, if you're just watching the show for the first time, Pastor Sherman, Pastor Tommy, with a show called Christ and Culture Show, and where we talk about trends, things that are going on in the world, and maybe you can get a little insight, folks. What are Christians doing, and how could we do it, and why, why God wants us not to be in this place, or wants us to be this way, because right now it's just driving you crazy. So if you'd like to get in on the conversation, you can go on to our YouTube channel at Godstream TV. You can check us out online at Godstream TV or Spotify, maybe even Apple Podcast. Get the show, and that would be great. But we'd love to have you as a part of the conversation, or just write to us at christandcultureshow@gmail.com. That's christandcultureshow@gmail.com. There's another AP story, Pastor Tommy, and this one, the title on this one says, "Unspent Aid Worth Billions Lacks Oversight as Trump Dismantles USAID, Watchdog Warns." And this is a very interesting article also. And here's the headline. It says, the USAID has lost almost all ability to track $8.2 billion, get this, in unspent humanitarian aid following the Trump administration's foreign funding freeze and idling of staffers, a government watchdog group warned Monday. The administration's fast-moving dismantling of the agency has left oversight of the aid largely non-operational, which means basically they're not spending about $8.2 billion. Where's it going? Who's going to do something? USAID's Inspector General's office said that included a greatly reduced ability to ensure that no assistance falls into the hands of violent extremist groups or goes astray in unstable regions or conflict zones, the watchdog group said. The Trump administration's actions have significantly impacted USAID's capacity to disperse and safeguard its humanitarian assistance. Oh, doesn't sound good. They can't safeguard the money. I think that's the whole reason why we're shutting you down, right? Oh my, citing the risk of hundreds of millions of dollars in commodities rotting after staff was barred from delivering it. Okay, so they're basically saying, you guys, look what you're doing now. The babies, the poor babies couldn't get their pablum. They couldn't get their Malta meal. And it's because of you guys, because you stopped us from giving this. USAID, I guess, had about 10,000 employees. Elon Musk says they can do it with between 300 and 600 people, which is huge. Wow. And what they did over the weekend is they basically barred the doors to USAID, many locations, took their signs off of the buildings and said, you guys aren't coming in here. And so now there's this watchdog group saying, well, when you did that, you left a lot of, milk on the table. And what are we going to do with this milk? Do you think we should worry about that, Pastor Tommy?
No, I don't, because it's all going to get worked out.
Yeah, I don't think we should worry about it. I just, these guys are scared.
Let them worry about it.
They have not worried about it before. How do we know that didn't happen? Right? How do we know that's not happened over the 60 years that thing's been going around?
Exactly.
We don't know that. We just don't know if there's been anything going on there. I think they're trying to believe that, no, you need to give us back our jobs so we can go back in and make sure that stuff gets to the right place. We promise, cross our hearts, cross our hearts that we'll make sure all of it. We've seen the error of our ways, right? I don't think so. Yeah, gosh. Yeah. Meanwhile, the administration and billionaire ally Elon Musk continue their unraveling of the aid agency. So I'm kind of wondering about Associated Press too, because the Associated Press writes these great articles, and yet there's this little twinge of snarkiness in it. You know what I mean?
You noticed that too?
Yeah. Yeah. They just a little snarky, and they're gone now. Elon Musk, that big old billionaire. Okay? Yeah. This big old billionaire is... They asked President Trump about this. They said, well, are you afraid Elon Musk is getting too much power? And they're going, look, the guy's he's working for free. I don't know how he finds the time to do this stuff. It's like... Right. But Elon Musk, I think for him, it is like the chase. And it's the challenge of finding government waste. He's good at it, man. I mean, he's good at finding this stuff. And he's got some 20-something-year-old kids that got that same tenacity. Yeah. And had it not been for these guys, much of this stuff would never be known.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
he's got some experience.
And I think what it does is it gets people upset. Chuck Schumer, we should just call him Snitch Schumer. Schumer Snitch Line. Something like that. We'll call him the Snitcher. Okay. We'll have to change his name to Chuck the Snitcher. So here's so this is a story. We didn't actually get to it, but I think we should throw it in now. There was a federal judge, who temporarily blocked the Trump administration from placing the USAID workers on leave. Meaning that, and here's the thing about, many of you don't know that federal judges are appointed or who are nominated by the president to get their positions. And then they're voted on by Congress to take their positions. And then they turn their back and go, Mr. President, that guy, right?
Yep.
And they're appointed for life. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. So it seems to me that you would think that a federal judge could not go back and supersede the president of the United States. But in this case, they can't stop what the president does, but they can definitely slow him down, because ultimately their boss is actually the Supreme Court. And right now, most analysts are saying that the president is well within his rights to put a pause on monies going out to find out if that money is going in the right place. And he would actually be what they call it, shirking his responsibility by not doing it. Yeah,
right.
I mean, your thoughts on that? Yeah.
No, I totally agree. This is what we get when there's a whole bunch of corruption. Mm-hmm. It's just all these whirlwinds that swirl, and then you got people trying to confuse people, like people like us. The people. And some people do get confused because there's so many lies and there's so much deception going on. But you're right. That goes to show how responsible President Trump is. Because he's a businessman. Businessmen look at the bottom line. Hey, are we making money or are we wasting money? And if we're wasting money, where is it being wasted? We need to know. So let's shut everything down so we can find out where the money's going. Mm-hmm. And he should be able to do that without, being slowed down by judges.
I know. But you've got people who they don't see it that way. They just don't see it that way. I'm really surprised. Now, once again, all you have to do is go in the inner city and ask a bunch of black folks. They'll tell you. They'll go, oh yeah, what? They did what? Give me that money back. They will tell you in a second. But if you let the Al Sharptons, the Chuck Schumers, the Nancy Pelosi's, now that's somebody I've not seen out there jumping up and down. Nancy Pelosi. And I think she's in eating ice cream or something like that, and she's just too old. But Maxine Waters is out there, and she's like, remember this weekend, over the week, they tried to storm the door of the education building, and she's been, you've not seen her in 4 years, literally 4 years not have seen Maxine Waters. All of a sudden, she comes back out of her crypt, right? And fangs just sharpened up and stuff like that. And she is just as vile and vicious as she's ever been. And she is upset that they're going to make any cuts any place. Now, here's the problem with the whole thing. The American people have spoken on this.
Yeah.
They spoke on this and they said, no, we're done. We're done with all this other stuff. Don't get it, Maxine. We're not letting you spend any more of our money. And they're going, we don't care what you care about, American people. Please talk to Pastor Tommy, talk to the American people, talk to the Democrat Party about the errors of their way. Because somebody's got to talk to these folks, because if they don't, they will never be in power again. I have no problem with that. But from the American people, talk to the Democrat Party and talk to them about what they want, what you want to see from them and our federal government.
While you were talking, I just thought about some of my overseas trips when there's a team of us that go in to minister. Mm-hmm. When we go in to minister, we're bringing righteousness, right? We're preaching the gospel. And lo and behold, every country you go to, whenever you bring the gospel, the righteousness, demons will manifest. And while you were talking, while you were explaining her, and then I saw some clips, basically that's what's happening, because righteousness is coming forth. The demonic force is angry. They're, I think she even assaulted someone. Didn't she push someone or
She
something like
pushed
that?
someone. Yes, she did. Huh?
Yeah. So I mean, people are starting to get it. They're starting to see the lashing out. They're starting to understand because you know I haven't seen President Trump. He's been shot and attempted twice on it. He hasn't pushed anybody or assaulted anybody or I mean he said some things, but that's just him. But he hasn't had his fangs come out.
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk, same thing. Um, but now is the time to make a decision for right or wrong. It's not right or
Mm.
left. It's right or wrong right now, and people are starting to make the decision. And this is time where we really have to begin to pray for other people to get it, so that they're not caught up in this whirlwind because it's really like a whirlwind. It's all this stuff going on, and
Mm-hmm.
people's heads are turning, and people are getting angry for no reason. Just real quick, I was talking to someone the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't being political at all, but it was perceived as being political, and they just happened to be a Democrat, and they got irate. And I'm
Really?
like, but I'm not
I,
even a Republican. I'm not a
mm-hmm.
Democrat. I just call it like it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they just lit into me, but
Wow.
that's where it is.
That's what you're gonna. What are you supposed to do? That it's called common sense, right?
It is.
We're common sense folks. We didn't even get into the LGBTQ stuff or any of that stuff. We're just talking about common sense stuff.
Common sense.
The government is supposed to represent us, and the American people said something very loud and clear November 5th. They said,
Yep.
we don't like the way we're going right now. We don't like the way we're going. Let's go the other direction. And you'd think it'd be easy. They would just get on board, like Fetterman. We got to go. But I mean, the guy from Philadelphia, he's a very common sense guy. Now, I
Yeah.
would have who would have thunk, right, that we'd be looking at this guy and saying he's the common sense guy. But of the Democrats, all the Democrats right now, he's probably the most common sense guy right now. And he's going, dude, what are you guys upset about?
Right.
Let's just fix it. Eggs are $40 a carton. Let's bring down the price. What's so bad about that? Hey, I can get on board with that, and I put my hoodie on, right? Yeah, I'm good.
Right.
And but Democrats don't see it that way. Pastor Tommy, maybe we'll make, in a week from now, things will make more sense of it. Anyways, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for being a part of the broadcast again. Okay, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
All right, guys.
And folks, maybe next week, maybe the Democrats will get it by next week. I hope they do, because right now it seems like they're not. Once again, folks, we want to encourage you, if you like the show, if you'd like to get a hold of us, write to us at christandcultureshow@gmail.com. That's christandcultureshow@gmail.com. Let us know that you like the show. You can always get us on Spotify, YouTube channel, or on Apple Podcasts, or on our Godstream TV channel at Christ and Culture Show. Okay, that's Christ and Culture Show. Anyways, this has been Pastor Sherman Ray for Christ and Culture Show. Thank you once again for being a part of the broadcast, folks. We will see you again next week for more of Christ and Culture. You guys have a great weekend. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.